As far back as I can remember, I dreamt of a normal life. A life filled with normal things. A life where monsters don't live in closets or under the bed. A life where ghosts aren't real. I just wanted to be normal. But that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. Since my early 20s, I have experienced profound paranormal events that would change my life. Extreme poltergeist activity, living amongst those that have departed this earth in ways unimaginable. It has affected my loved ones and children with no end in sight. I could hear things, see things, and feel things not of this world. I asked myself if this was a gift or a curse. With the help of my mother and close friends, I emerged a paranormal investigator. Since 2013, I have been on a relentless journey to learn about the paranormal. This is my time to share my journey with you. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and we are presenting episode 58. And we are going to be discussing my personal ghost story. And I've been wanting to do it for a while. Don't know why I've waited till now to go into detail about it, but here we go. I'm going to try to cover all the hot points and all the, the good stuff, the juicy stuff in this show. If I need to go over a little bit over an hour, I will. But hopefully you guys don't get bored, and you might find it interesting. You might relate to it, and we will even try to get to Missy and Jessica's ghost story, if they have one. We have Missy and Jessica with us tonight, of course. Jessica is free tonight, so we get to have a normal lineup show. Are you girls excited?
Yeah. I'm here. Yes.
She is. She is excited. So, this is how the show works, guys. If you have not watched, if you want to get shouted out, say hi in the comments, start talking so we know your name, and we'll shout you out here momentarily. If you have a question for me, just be patient. Missy and Jess are moderating YouTube and Facebook comments. They will read your question to me momentarily and periodically throughout the show. Please keep the comments classy. Please be respectful. If you're trolling or being disrespectful, you're going to be blocked and reported. So I would appreciate if you shared this live stream with other friends that you would think find this interesting. Even if you don't think so, just share it. Force it down their throat. That's what we like to do around here. Not really. But here we go, guys. In the beginning of my story, it's kind of typical, right? I didn't experience anything that I would classify as profoundly paranormal till my early 20s. But what had happened was my mother and her sister would tell me stories. And this is kind of what planted seeds in my mind early on. They lived in one of the oldest houses in Ohio. Okay, not just in Highland County, but in Ohio. Okay, we're talking about back in the late 1700s, almost to the mid 1700s. There was a man that my mom was talking about. I forget his name, but he knew a lot of history of Hillsborough and Highland County. And before there was multiple counties in southern Ohio, there was one county called Adams County. Now, there is an Adams County in southern Ohio, but it's much smaller. But at this time, there was just one huge county called Adams County, and it went all the way up to Columbus. And this house that my mom and her sister, and mom, dad, and brother grew up in was super old. I think it ended up being over 250 years old before it burned down. And I want to say the early 2000s when it burnt. But they would experience some very crazy things, and I'm going to tell you about them. The ones that I remember. Uh, the very first thing I remember my mother telling me was they used to experience these children in their attic, and my mom and her sister were very young. They would appear there at night, and I'm thinking during the day too. Probably throughout the day and night, or maybe just the day. I'm not sure on that detail now that I'm bringing it up, but nonetheless, these kids would start appearing, and then they would start playing with them, and they thought it was normal. They thought the kids were just there living in the attic, and they played with them. And as my mom grew older and realized, hey, these children that they were playing with had to be spirits. So that was the first introduction to ghost stories about this old house. Now, we would visit this old house. We would stay there on Christmas Eve. We would go there often to visit my grandmother. I was there tons. And this house had a feeling like no other. The energy and the strangeness of the house while you're inside it and outside it was more than palpable. I mean, it was almost consuming to me. And another story about this same room adjacent to how you get into the attic really terrified me. So much that every time I went up to the room and had to sleep in this room, this guest room at night, it was a rough time. My mom explained to me that this woman glowing with blue light came to her by her bed. And when she saw this, she was frozen in fear. She's like, oh my God, what is this? Who is this? The woman came up to her and kind of started caressing her head. And she just froze. She could not move. She was pretty much scared stiff. But that's all this entity was doing with her. And then she walked away and vanished. And that story stuck with me on, oh my God, me and my mom was talking on the phone, I think last night. And these stories that I'm telling you is what's planted the seed. They never left me. I was always fascinated by these stories because I believed my mom. At this point, I was very impressionable. I was very young. I had no reason to disagree or disbelieve this stuff. She went on, to tell me, plus her sister would go on to tell me that these lights would come out of the sky and these small alien type beings would come out of these ships and play with them outside. Dark black shadow entities out in the yard that would terrify them. Just a host of stories like this. And I felt like they were strange. They were weird. They were crazy. I couldn't believe how fantastical these stories were. They just seemed too crazy to be true to me. But my mother and my aunt, her sister, were not liars. So that caused some stress. I was terrified of this house at times, amazed by the house at times, mystified, and very curious. So I kind of grew up shrouded in this spiritual mystery. What is these things that they're explaining to me? What is it real? And if it is, how does it work? Where is it when it's not there? Will I experience something? I never did experience anything like they experienced there, but the feeling that I remember was strong. And that's what started it for me. So if you want to fast forward all the way to about 1992, we moved into the house on Glen Street in Hillsborough, and many of you have heard about this. So that's when I started interacting with the former owner of that house. Subtle things would start happening. That's when my mother was telling me, hey, she could tell who these entities were. She could see them, she could sense them, and she was telling me and my father and my brother who she believed it was. And this is when it started getting real. I didn't know what to do besides just kind of shelf it over here. Like, okay, it's happening, but I had to kind of keep it to myself, because if I start telling other people, they're going to think I'm a liar, or going to think I'm crazy. So I think that's what a lot of people do. When they grow up with these experiences, they kind of shelf them there when you're out in public, but when you're amongst the family, they come up and you talk about them. So it started off with footsteps up the stairs. This guy's had an office at the bottom of the stairs that we converted into a den. And the footsteps would be heard at night going up, coming down. My dad thought it was me and my brother. He went to go investigate. We were sound asleep every single time. It would drive him nuts. My mom tried to tell him who this man was and what he was doing. She told him that he was checking on his children, that he was confused, that he had come back to the home after he had taken his own life, and was confused about who the kids were upstairs and who we were. And what was interesting, after we experienced this for a while, and she told us, my mom told us, that she would tell him what was going on, that his children have grown up and moved on. His family didn't live there anymore, and who we were. And he would say, oh, okay. But then the next day, or the next time he came around, that memory or that information that my mom gave to him was completely erased from him. And he kept on doing the same things. So it was he was stuck in this loop. And I felt like this would explain a lot of reasons why people get stuck and they seem to haunt a place and can't escape it. You get stuck in a loop. And this, before I go on, I want to kind of talk to you about the way I view the paranormal through these experiences. Is sometimes residual haunts and intelligent haunts get confusing. They get hazy. I think that energies that can loop over and over, depending on your psychic ability or your perception or the certain circumstance that you're in, the definitions and classifications of what's residual and what's intelligent can be very blurry, be very gray. Okay? So if you ever ask your question, why would an entity or a spirit or an energy of some disembodied consciousness want to be stuck in some place? Well, if it's like a dream state where you're constantly stuck in this idea or this loop over and over, that would make sense why you can't escape it, because you're looping. Your experience of why you're there and what you're doing is looping over and over. So I just thought that was really strange, yet very interesting. So things would start escalating a bit. And what I believe escalated the haunting was my mom and dad had a rough marriage. They did not agree. My dad was very angry. They were very stressed. Just normal life problems would, butt in. And the more stress my mom received, she was at a point to where what she would call went on strike. She no longer stopped cleaning the house up after everybody, because no one really helped her do it. And she had to work and clean the house, pay a lot of the bills. My dad wasn't helping as much as she thought he should be. And she said, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore. So the house started to get dirty all the time. It wasn't, being kept up. So this is when things started to get weirder. You started to feel the presence being stronger. You started to hear and feel things different places, in the basement, in the living room, in the den. You would hear things, and the frequency in which you would hear the normal things and experience the things that we were experiencing increase. And the overall feeling that I would get while I was upstairs where his kids lived was the sense that we were in someone's space, and it was a tad bit ominous, but a tad bit it felt safe but strange. Like you would go over to a friend's house and stay in their room. It just never felt like yours. It never felt like home. I remember seeing the ceiling of my room when it would go dark. The kids that used to live there that belonged to this man would, take marker that glue in the dark. You couldn't see unless you turned off the lights. You can see where they wrote things. So at night, it felt like you would see evidence here and there of where this evidence of who used to live there. And I remember just feeling odd all the time. And when it got to the point where my mom and dad were divorcing and the house got more and more disrepair, things got more and more crazier. Now, if you kind of fast forward a little bit, things get really weird with our family. When my mom and dad divorced, we kind of left the house initially. My dad moved to Cincinnati and was staying with friends and stuff. My mom would move back with her mom and a sister. So the house kind of stayed abandoned at times during my high school years. And I remember going back to the house, and it was very strange because some of her stuff was still there, but we weren't living in it. So I felt like that house was haunted by not only the previous owner, but our own family. Okay. I would go in there and weird stuff would happen sometimes. And I always wondered, like, okay, it started to change. And it really messed with the energy of this house. It's hard for me to kind of articulate and put this stuff into words, but it was just very, very strange. So there was a point to where we would go back to the house. Me, my dad, and my brother moved back into the house, but my mom never did. And she just stayed away. And I had my first son, Cyrus, in 2006. And then he was living there. And I think when he was about 2, we're going to fast forward to when he was about 2. That's when I had my first what the fuck moment with the house. And when Christy was living there, I had left my first son's mother. A couple years later, I met Christy and we were dating. And when she moved in, things started getting weird. Things would start moving on their own. Electrical appliances would start going on and off. It started escalating. The house was in even more and more disrepair at this point. And I remember sitting up in the room watching a movie with Christy, and there was a penny laying on top of the VHS machine, the videotape machine. And I'm kind of watching a movie, and then I see the penny right here in my vision, and it just lifts up off the ground, flips, and lands. And it blew my mind. I look over at Christy and asked if she saw that, and she said, yes, she saw it. So that was the starting point of the moving of the coins. It escalated from that. They would fly across the room randomly. I would have a friend over. He would come into the room. They would fly past I remember it flying past my friend at one point. I remember a quarter being winged really fast at Christy's head while I was asleep. It chipped the paint off the dresser. I remember seeing a beam of light traveling from the floor to the ceiling in a dark room. I would cover up the windows, cover up the door, try to find a source of light. Couldn't find a source of light causing the beam, and I couldn't block it, and I couldn't make it go away. It was very strange. And my dad would report all kinds of things about, disturbances that this ghost was doing, and he would argue, tell him to stop, and of course he would make him angry. So all this stuff is leading up to when just me and my son, 2 years old, 2.5, and he's talking to me. He's just now learning how to, say sentences and communicate. And he starts talking about a man named John. So I immediately assume that he's talking about my father, his grandfather, which his name is John. He says, no, not talking about Grandpa John. I'm talking about John R. He's dead. And at this point, I have never once spoke the man that sold us the house name. Not one time to him. Not around him ever. I know a lot of skeptics I talk to of this, they say, well, you must have brought up his name at some point. And it's like, no, I did not. It just did not come up at all around him at all. Okay? I know that to be a fact. And let alone, he doesn't understand what's going on with the house. So, of course, this freaked me the fuck out. Okay? I ran out of the house, chain smoked on the back porch for a good 5-10 minutes, left him there in his diaper, and it blew my mind. It totally shattered my perception of reality. And all these stories my mom would tell me about who it was and all these things that's happened over the years. I'm sorry, 2001, so I was born. I got my birthdays mixed up. And yeah, that's when I knew the shit was real. And my mom was right, and I couldn't look back after that. It changed me. And, Christy was there to, early on in the relationship to witness this stuff. So that it was the beginning. Before I move on, we can do some shout outs. This is going to be a long show, I feel like. But we can do some shout outs. If anybody has any questions or anything that they would like me to talk to them right now, by all means, let me know. But we can start the shout out.
I have Val.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. This could be boring or this could be weird. I don't know. You let me know.
We have on YouTube Pamela, Sam Thomas, Joe, Marilyn, Betty, Limelit Girl, Heath Edwards. Joe said you have a thing with pennies in the paranormal, Justin.
I know.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sam said, Justin, you stated that your first paranormal experience was around 20 years old. Did you not believe in it before?
Yeah, I had not experienced anything up to that point, like you said, but my mom and my aunt telling me about it definitely put in my mind that it was possible. But I was conflicted about it because I hadn't experienced it on my own.
I see.
I was muted on your end.
You were muted? Let me see here. Talk, Missy. I see you coming through. Here, we got to test it. I got to turn my phone on. This is the thing that irritates the crap out of me.
Screen, and I do want to tell Valerie that somebody told me that she is a gentle soul. Years old. Did you not believe in it before?
Okay, let me try to go back. Felt like you would see. Hold on, we got to test this problem with Missy. Go ahead and talk, Missy. See here. Talk, Missy. Just anything. I got to sit here and see if you're muted or not on my end. I see you coming through. Here, we got to test it. I got to turn. I'm not hearing you say anything, Missy. This is the thing that irritates a crap.
And I do want to tell Valerie that somebody told me that she is a gentle soul.
Okay, I'll just
Oh,
do that and do this and see if that works.
I'm like, oh, by the way, I hope you don't mind. I washed my hair with your beard wash.
Oh gosh.
And he's like, no, how much did you use?
That's funny.
It's like I didn't use your shit. He was like, I'm gonna kill you.
That's funny. I could see him doing that.
Oh, your mom is on.
Hi, Mom. We're trying to fix Missy's audio issue. I got this mixer of all this stuff I got to take care of, and I got to mute one, unmute the other, and do all kinds of stupid craps.
It was so funny though. He's like, what?
I could picture him freaking
Okay,
out.
I got it now. Okay, I'm sorry. Do we need to go back to YouTube?
Facebook.
Okay, Facebook.
Okay, I have Valerie, I have Bill, I have Becky, I have Derek, I have Shannon, Janet, Sandy, Jamie, Paranormal Reporter, Christy, Josh, Marlene, Kathy, Mark, and John. Valerie, what did you to repeat what you just said?
Me?
Yeah.
I was told, Valerie, by looking at your picture, that you are a gentle soul. And if you would like to know who it was, you can send me a message.
It'll be $99.95.
The orbologist just joined.
And Donna's on. I don't think anybody heard me say that, but Donna's on.
Hi, Miss Donna.
Yep. Hi, Mom. I'm probably going to mention you a lot. Sorry. So yeah, was that all the questions we had initially, or?
I only had one. Yeah.
Okay.
Donna said, hi, Justin.
Saw that. Hi, Mom. All right. For some reason, I'm not getting any comments on YouTube at all, and that's irritating. Like they're not popping up. Let me close down the app.
Yeah, you're right. They're not popping up on the main screen.
I'm gonna try to fix this too.
On Facebook, on my phone, when the comments pop up, they disappear, and I have to hit the screen for them to come back.
That's annoying.
It's been 2 weeks now.
Oh, boom! There they go. Look at them go. They're all catching up. Everyone read them really fast. Yeah, this app is driving me crazy. I got to figure out what's wrong with it. But okay, now it's working. Okay, now that I think everything, the audio and the chat's working, we can continue. So, what really gets weird is we fast forward, we move out of this house, and it ultimately ends up getting tore down by the city because it's just so dilapidated. No one's living in it. My dad never fixed it up. He ended up moving away, and it just sat there, and it got tore down. I did try to go back, and after I started doing paranormal research to see if, after my dad died, to see if he was still there, if this man was still there, and the neighbors gave me a hard time. So I didn't go back. Thanks, orbologist buddy. I really appreciate it. It's to the point where it's about a year, maybe not. Actually, I think I need to rewind. I was still with my son's mother. Okay. This gets really weird. I'm going to have to piece these things together. Maybe I need to get a timeline and write a book one day, because this is really confusing. But I was still with my son's mother before I met Christy at this point, and we were living with my son's mother's brother in Hillsboro. And this house was haunted. Okay, we move in. It's the first thing we hear about. This my son's mother's brother named Jeremy. He's like, dude, this house is fucking haunted, really haunted. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's telling me things get thrown around, weird shit happens. I'm like, okay. So yeah, when we're living there, the TV would go on and off. Things would move, get thrown. I mean, it's super haunted. It happened every day. And when it was like a party house, a whole bunch of people stayed there all the time. We were always constantly drinking and partying and just having a good old time. And I remember a barbell from a weight bench in the kitchen rolling across the floor and hitting me, and I look around, there's nothing there to move it. There was a telephone, an old school telephone, the rotary ones, that started ringing and wasn't even plugged in. All kinds of crap happened. So we're going to fast forward to when I started staying in this one guest room at this house. I could not go to sleep in this room. I felt like something was intensely staring at me, but when I looked at the direction I felt it, there was nothing there. Never anything there. And then at one point, one night, I was experiencing this again, and I heard a buzzing noise, and I couldn't tell where it was coming from. I would look outside, try to find the source of it. It wasn't a transformer buzzing. It wasn't anything in the house buzzing. It didn't sound like it was coming from anywhere, from any direction, but it was everywhere. So it got so bad, 3 or 4 in the morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I would round up my son and his mother and go up to my mom's house in a neighboring county, a neighboring town, out in the boondocks, and I would stay there. I would go back, try to sleep at this house, start staring at me again, would not let me sleep. It is very strange to explain how this felt, but it would not let me sleep. I would do the same thing. I would round up the kid and the kid's mom, go up to my mom's so I can go to sleep. Well, eventually, I got tired of this. So, I just started staying at my mom's house with the kid and kid's mom. So, first night, I'm sitting there watching TV in the other room. Kid's mom's in the next room. And she comes in there and tells me, hey, there's someone staring at me. Go look outside, find out who it is. I'm like, okay, I don't know who it would be. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Go out there, no one's out there. Look all around, can't find anyone. I tell her there's no one there. And she's adamant that there was. So I'm like, okay, try to go to bed. So she did. We go to sleep. Next day, same time, same exact thing happened. She gets up, walks into the room, says, there's something staring at me in this room. You have to come in here. I'm like, okay. At this point, I don't know what to do. I go in there. But what was different was I flipped on the light. And what I seen in the corner where she reported this thing was staring at her, it was this ball mass of energy. Okay, I'm going to do my very best to explain this. If you've ever looked through water at an aquarium and noticed how the light kind of waves with the water, that's what it looked like. And around the mass looked like static from a TV that you could see through. And all this was translucent, but you could see the energy affecting the atmosphere there. And it was bobbing up and down like this, like something really fucking creepy. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And all of a sudden, these orbs of light flood the room. They come in through the doorway, they swirl in, they start swirling around. And the story about the orbs of light, if you rewind back to my mom telling me that when she first moved there, she discovered this source of energy, a point on her property she was renting. And she arranged these stones in a circular pattern to harness the energy, if I remember her right. And of course, her landlord was a shaman, and this kind of flipped her out because my mom started doing weird shit on her mom and dad's old property she was renting to her. And she's like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Well, these orbs of light started to come visit my mother at this house. And it would freak the hell out of my brother's dog. My mom thought it was cool, obviously, because she's weird, right? And she's telling me this, and I think she's absolutely crazy. But she obviously wasn't, because now I'm seeing these things, and they start swirling the room. And as soon as they start doing that, this anomaly, this mass, changed its behavior. It kind of like broke free and stopped doing this hovering thing and just kind of moved past me. I turn and it goes out of the room. And as soon as it turns the frame of the door, it comes back and peeks at me from around the door of where the living room is. And I thought that was fucking crazy, obviously. So it was almost like it wanted me to follow it. So I walk out of the room, and it leads me down past the living room into the kitchen and turns into my mom's room. So I follow it in there. There it is, floating in the middle of my mom's room. And I had the idea that, hey, I'm going to walk into this thing. It's just going to sit there. I want to see what it feels like. I want to know if this is real or not. So I walk into it. And probably as you would expect, it felt exactly like it looked. It felt hot and cold at the same time. So if you would imagine what icy hot feels like, that's exactly what it felt like, but a waving energy feeling like that, and it was tingly, real tingly. So if you've ever been to a haunted location, or if you ever experienced paranormal phenomena and felt that, that was probably what you're experiencing too, some similar type of paranormal energy. We're just going to call it paranormal. We don't know what it is. Spirit energy. Whatever it is. So after that, it just vanishes. It goes away. So I tell my mom, it's like, hey, look, I got an issue. This thing keeps on at the same time. The last 2 nights keeps, screwing with us. But then the orbital light came in and saved the day. And I don't know what happened. She's like, okay, well, I'll call the landlord and we'll take care of it. So she comes over. She smudges the whole house. She locks all the entryways and windows down with a process that a lot of people might be familiar with. You take your energy and you imagine a source of white light coming and extending out of your hand, and you're sealing off the doors and the windows and all the potential places where stuff can get in. And you're sealing it off so negative entities and unwanted spirits can't get in. And she smudged and cleansed the house, and then she sat us down at the table and asked me and my kid's mom, what do we have that we brought from the house? Because we were telling her that this came, from the house that we were at. So eventually we found out that we had an album of photos that we had taken at my kid's mom's brother's house where this entity come from. And she flipped through them and she found a picture of her brother who she'd never seen before and said, this is where it's from. And we're like, yeah. So she took the photo, smudged the photo, and said, this is witchcraft. Somebody, a female, middle-aged female was messing around with witchcraft. This is what this is. And we're going to send it back. And wherever it came from, it'll go back tenfold. I'm like, okay, this is some witchy shit. I don't know what's going on. This seems weird, but we'll see what happens. And sure enough, when I went back to the brother's home, Jeremy's house, it was crazy. It went back just like she said it was, and it was off the chain. And another person that I was friends with that was staying there said that they had seen the entity after it went back. And they explained exactly what I just explained to you. I did not talk to this woman about what I saw, and she explained, every single detail about it. I knew that it was something that I could not deny. Your brain does all kinds of things. Like, you're imagining it, you're going crazy. It was that LSD you took or those mushrooms you took and you just had a flashback. Your brain tries to do everything it possibly can to explain it away. But I could not do that. And whatever this witchcraft stuff was, it made water manifest out of the air at my mother's house before onto my kid's mother's back. And after conversation over the years, my mother felt like whatever this witchcraft stuff was, it may have had something to do with the stuff being thrown around back at the Glen Street house where we grew up, or were we at for a period of time where this haunting was going on with the former owner. And the one thing I did leave out of that story was the former owner had moved out to a farm. He found out that his wife was cheating on him. That was too much for him to bury. He took his truck out to the barn lot and shot his guts out and killed himself. So that is what brought that on. But this other story, this other occurrence, something completely different. And that started off my belief in witchcraft and trying to understand the occult and how that was possible. So here we are. That happened. I dealt with the other things that happened. And at this point, I was on my way and on my journey to trying to figure out what all this was. But, I didn't start investigating at this point. I had too much going on. I didn't have my crap together at this time. It wasn't until my dad passed away in 2011 that I really didn't know that I needed to seek some type of spiritual growth. I was not prepared for that to happen. It really hurt me and upset me that he passed away like he did, as early as he did. And it really made me take a hard look at my own mortality, the mortality of my loved ones, what it meant to me. And, I felt like I definitely had to be prepared for this to happen again. And I definitely was more curious and more focused on the afterlife and spirituality in general. So a couple years after he had passed, I started getting into the ghost hunting shows. I started researching paranormal phenomena and the occult and all kinds of stuff more and more and more, which is something I've always been interested in since, my mother had told me the stories. But now it's real. Now I need to start doing something. So before we get into this next chapter, we're going to go back to the girls. We're going to try to get some comments read. This is going to be a little bit different format, so bear with us.
I don't really have any about your ghost story, except one. Oh no, that's not for you. That's me. We were just talking about the dogs. Me and Becky were talking about dogs, and Bill's talking about Josh Bell and Derek bionic arms, and
I'm
we're having a blast
I'm
over
glad
here in
everyone's
chat.
interested in my story so far.
Sandy said she would have been out of there.
I would have been too.
Well, a lot of times you don't have a choice. Like when I was at stand with the brother, I was out of there. I didn't want to deal with that, but then it kind of followed. But then it got taken care of. So at points with the witchcraft stuff, I did try to avoid it. And I did, my mom and her landlord helped me out with that. But when it come back to the other house, it was I didn't have a choice, and it was much less frequent too, which helped.
That's all I had.
Okay.
I apologize to Joe. I missed what he said earlier. He goes, early it was missed, I guess. The story about the man that he was confused about in your house that was like stuck in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
There was a term called residual intelligence.
No. I was kind of playing on the idea that residual hauntings and intelligent hauntings are not so clear-cut as what people believe they are. People have these ideas and these theories based on what they experience. Some entities are obviously interacting with you intelligently, like they know you're there and they're interacting with you. Some phenomena does not interact with you at all. So that's a clear distinction. But in this case, I believe that there was no clear distinction. This guy was kind of like doing the same things over and over and over, but he would interact with us, especially my son and my mother. So that's what that was my takeaway from that. Sometimes hauntings aren't as clear cut. We cannot put a label on whether it was intelligent or residual. And hopefully that kind of clarifies that.
Okay. Everybody on YouTube is saying what an awesome show as always. We love your story, Justin. You're a paranormal magnet. Just a few people saying that they're enjoying listening to ghost stories.
Valerie asked, Justin, would you mind elaborating on your spiritual journey?
Sure. I would before my dad passed away, I would consider myself as an atheist. Like, I felt like I didn't have a belief in what happened when you passed away, or an atheist, or an agnostic, where I didn't really believe in a God, and I didn't have a set belief in what happened in the afterlife. There was nothing there. I've always thought about it philosophically all the time, but I just never set off on a journey to discover anything. It was just always, oblivious to me. But it did, I did think about it a lot. So when my dad passed away, I knew that I had a problem. I knew that I needed a system to deal with death. I needed a system to try to find out what my problem was with spirituality, because that is important when dealing with death and mortality. That is the reason why we do have spirituality. But it's not a necessity. That should not be the only reason why spirits, the afterlife, God, and so forth exist. Skeptics in science would lead you to think that, but I don't believe that. I believe that it exists whether you need it or not. So with that being said, I started exploring psychic ability, exploring the possibility of how to interact with the dead, how to investigate it, how to communicate with my dad eventually down the road. And that would lead into other experiences that me and Christy had at our home presently. But then it got to the point where it was upsetting her family, parts of her family, because I was publicizing what we were doing with that certain person. There was a mysterious death in the family that was making itself known around us. But I did see Christy's comment, and I do not believe it got worse when you got there. It was just a coincidence. Like, you just came in at the time that it started happening. That's what I feel like. I don't think you had anything to do with it, but I just don't know. I didn't feel like you did. I think it was just timing.
Sam asked, was there an old spirit as well there, like a boss spirit? You know what I mean? Sometimes when I feel an old being, I get a feeling that they were never human.
Now, I did see something with that orb of energy, the witchcraft stuff. I did see a separate entity. So that might go along with what you're saying, but at the house where my mom and dad lived, we lived with them, no. But the witchcraft stuff, yes. I do believe that there are entities that, okay, when you do something to try to affect somebody else in a way that you want to disturb, in a negative way, you deal with entities that can control things, and you make pacts, and nothing's for free. Like, you always pay for these things that you send out. I mean, if you ever look at the occult, if you ever look at magic, everything you send out comes back to you, positive and negative. And that's just, it's almost like a natural law. Like, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. That's true in magic and the occult. So these things, I've done a lot of occult research, and these things that have these weird structures to them are usually energies that's being controlled by something else entirely. And that is the perpetrator. That's the puppeteer of what is actually causing you, problems. Not always, though.
William Bennett is on YouTube as well.
What's up, William? Thanks for joining us. So I see that Valerie says, yes, I agree with you. You can, Paranormal Reporter says you can be a target. I was told over the weekend that I was attacked by a witch. So that was curious, but the timings didn't line up. And so yeah, the spiritual journey kind of led me into the paranormal investigating. So in 2013, I started doing it. I started trying to get EVPs. I tried to emulate what I was seeing on the shows, because I didn't do any research outside of how to actually do investigations and field research with ITC and EVP especially. So I had to go through all those learning curves as you normally would. So I find out my own path essentially and try to surround myself with people to help me and to join me. And two of them sit here next to me. And I guess I can ask you girls, what do you think? How have I changed your journey into the paranormal? I mean, has it changed, or is it like, are we on the same path and we have cross paths? I mean, how would you contribute to this?
Go ahead, Missy.
I think we were on the same path to begin with, but then you made the path that I was going down right and better and more bright, if you want to say.
So I expedited it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met at a public paranormal event at Posttown Elementary, and I guess it was love at first sight, was according to what Derek said. So how about you, Jess?
I think you gave me a lot of answers of stuff that I didn't know. Where I just would just automatically think it was anxiety, or, I just couldn't be around people, or, panic attacks or whatnot. And I think it stemmed from there, and helping out is what, and you helped me to grow.
Mm-hmm. I see that Valerie has an interesting question. What is she on? Facebook?
Facebook. Hold on. I was responding to Derek.
Yeah, Derek has a question before her if you want to get to him first.
Okay. Have you ever returned to the residence? If so, did you have the same experience or feeling upon return?
Which residence?
I thought you would explain that you had went back there and the neighbors.
Yeah, after it was tore down, I did.
Yeah.
I never went back there and investigated why it was still there, because it was tore down before I started doing field research. And
then Valerie's question was, what is the meaning of orange fireball-like orbs and witchcraft?
I don't have any experience with that, but I did a quick Google search and nothing. There's Devil's Promenade and the Hornet Spook Light. I've seen some urban legends and stuff. Can you be a little bit more specific, because initial Google search didn't pop up anything, so I can't get a frame of reference to an orange fireball and witchcraft. I've never came across anything like that. If anybody in the chat has, by all means, speak up about that. Uh-oh. Onyx was like, I do. I know all about it.
Oh my gosh. Bill said, that's okay. Ask for money next time, girls.
Oh no.
Who we gonna ask for money? Because we ain't getting none from Justin Brown.
Oh my God.
The orbologist said, that is a joke. Justin's energy is far superior to a witch.
What was a joke? Did I miss what the joke was?
I thought you said something about your energy. Remember, you were supposed to have gotten attacked. I'm assuming that's what it was in reference to.
Yes, someone told you got attacked by
a witch.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Justin. I can't keep up.
I don't know if I'm far superior. And I may have said Pacific Joe. I definitely have a habit of doing that at times.
Becky said she has zero clue about the orb. Valerie said, I've seen fireball orbs at night in the woods, and then a huge shadow that kept getting larger until I broke my focus. I was with a friend. She was asleep when this happened, and I couldn't wake her until it was over. Crazy.
Okay, so I've seen a fireball orbs at night in the woods, and then a huge shadow that kept getting larger until it broke my foot. Okay, that goes along with some of the stuff I'm seeing on Google that people see that, but I couldn't tell you whether that was witchcraft or not. Could be, but don't know. Never experienced something quite like that or researched it. Interesting. So, to pretty much sum this show up is mom and sister kind of started off weird for me. And then we moved in the house that was weird and experienced some things. So I was kind of like, okay. And then it kind of crested and peaked to a point of, okay, this shit is definitely real. And now it's talked to my kid and this shit's crazy. And then mixed in, the occult with this. So now I feel like I'm different. I feel like that this is what I was meant to do. And not until probably the last 5 years, 6 years since I've been doing the field research, I didn't know that I had abilities of my own. And like I say on the show all the time, that everyone has psychic ability, whether they believe it or not, whether they choose to use it to the degree that, quote unquote psychics do. Everybody does it, whether they want to admit it or not, or notice it or not. And the more you understand, the more you do the research, and the more you hone the craft, the better you can become. And what's interesting is that there's a range of abilities people can have. And once you start working with other psychics and other people with abilities, you can start doing things better around different people. When I'm around Jess, I am more, I want to say cognizant, as they say, like the ability to know becomes stronger. When I'm around Missy, the ability to see and hear things becomes stronger. So that is very interesting to me. Really interesting. So, I mean, what do you girls have any feedback on that? Do you feel like when you're around me that things get different or better?
Things get crazy. I'm joking.
Well, they do.
I
agree.
Why do you agree?
Well, we've experienced it.
Okay, yeah. So, do you feel?
Right. If I'm with you, I feel. See, the thing is with you, when I'm doing my walkthroughs, I feel that I'm picking up on more emotions than I would just walking through the store. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But it could be that I'm more, a little bit tuned in. But I'm thinking that you boost me with that. And I've been starting to hear a lot more things because I think Missy.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing things, but I still could be mentally blocking that myself. I mean, I have seen things.
You tend to block it because if you don't want to see it, you block that out.
Right. I have seen a few things, but not at locations I have, but nothing crazy. But I mean, just being with Missy, I'm hearing things more. I believe seeing, but I'm unwinding, being able to see things.
What's interesting about seeing paranormal things is when I first was trying to understand it, I thought you used your eyes to see, right?
Nope.
And you do not. You use your spirit eyes to see paranormal things. When your eyes actually see things, they don't see things like a psychic does. You see weird shadow anomalies. You may see a shadow mass, shadow person, an orb of light, an anomaly. That's the things you see with your human eyes. With your spirit eyes, you see the crazy shit, the full body, the weird shit that, it's like endless possibility that you can imagine you will see. And it can get really strange at that point. So when you start figuring out how you can see those things and determine what's imagination and what is non-imagination. That is the key. And that is a good way to explain how to unlock psychic ability. Just the way to determine what is paranormal, what is something you're creating through misconception or some type of false positive with your senses or with your imagination.
See, I even think, Justin and I, we talk regularly. I mean, not every day, sometimes not even once a week. But if I start feeling, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't even know. So I'm just going to roll with it.
Witchy?
But if I'm not feeling, I guess you could say witchy, but if I'm not feeling, but as soon as I start talking to Justin, it's like, bam, it hits me right back in the face. Like, I got it. And I'm assuming it's your energy that you're pushing off when even just on the phone.
Well, that's what Orbologist is saying right now.
Oh, feel your energy?
He said he can feel our energy from where it is. See that comment there? It was strange that you just said that right when he said it.
Yeah, it's just, but it's like, but then there's days that it's like, and that's not necessarily I'm depressed or anything, but it's just like, you have your days of being down.
Where you don't feel it.
Right. Well, I mean, so what do? I call Justin.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, I'm my normal again, not normal, but my normal. And even if he tells me, oh, everybody experiences that, Just, it's like, okay, whatever. But, it's just, I don't know, just talking with Justin, I'm sure you can, just talking to him, it just brings the vibration back up. Yep. Like, so you'll be able to, and then shit's happen at the house.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Shit's happening at your house?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
over the weekend, it was crazy.
We got to hear about this now. You can't just leave us hanging.
Oh, well, he goes in my bathroom and he goes, have you ever experienced this before, Missy? And I'm like, what? And he's like, the shower curtain just opened. And I'm like, yeah, it does it all the time. And he's like, and you stand there? Yeah.
I didn't say, do you stand there? I was just making sure that I wasn't going crazy.
He's like, I just want to make sure I'm not going nuts. And then he's like, your couch has an aura. And I'm like,
yeah, that made me definitely feel like I was nuts. I don't normally see auras, but I do sometimes. And when I was laying down trying to go to sleep and I'm facing your couch on the air mattress, it's glowing. So I'm like, I don't know. Couch is glowing, so it's weird.
Christy said, I wish I was my normal talking with him.
Joe, be nice. Sorry.
So
what do you say?
He says Jess has a normal. Just joking.
So you got to tell me what happened at your house now. This is a mandatory thing.
Okay, well, it seems like everything starts happening when Josh is gone. More. Like the feelings that I get, even my daughter, she even starts bringing stuff up when Josh is gone. And he was gone over the weekend. And it was just like each day it was getting like more intense. And I don't know if I just kind of block more things out because it's home, it's where I live. I don't want to. But anyways, I sent you that picture of the front porch when I was mowing grass. I mowed grass again. You guys were gone. I mowed the grass again, and I kept telling Josh, I was like, he's going to think I'm crazy, but the man is following me. Like every time, like I would turn my head to like turn, I would see something. But when your eyes are just that quick focus, it was gone. And I was like, he's following me. Like I could feel the male presence, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was going on. The dog all weekend, even if I went outside to do whatever or anything, he was barking all weekend long, just at random things, random. But anyways, Emma and I came into the office, and this is where we usually mostly fill a lot of the stuff. We came into the office, and I heard a whisper, like in my face, and it wasn't Emma. I said, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "No." I said, "Okay." So then we got out. The next morning, I'm laying in bed on my phone, and I had one knee propped up and the other one kind of off to the side. I felt a hand like touch my leg. And I just like sat there laid there. And I was like, oh, shit.
So,
but go ahead.
I was going to say, so.
Oh, and the night before, I'm sorry. The night before, I can't stand, not to cut you off, I can't stand when I'm laying in bed not to have, I have to have a sheet and I have to have a blanket. And I can't even stand having anything that's not covered by a blanket. If it's covered just by a sheet, I can't do it. But I had my foot and it felt like somebody grabbed my foot. And the dog was nowhere near where my foot was at or, anything. So I'm sorry, Justin, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, I mean, what do you think is up with when Josh is gone? Do you think that that changes things?
To me, and I feel like I feel him when Josh is here, but it's more like in my face, like walking down the hallway. Like, I mean, I'm not like running down the hallway, but I'm thinking, oh yeah, they're right behind me. To me, the only thing it feels like, well, I mean, we have an idea who it is, but I don't want to say it on here. But it's almost like possibly a protection, if that makes sense. Like Josh is gone, so it's kind of like they have to protect. But it's not. I don't feel it's anybody.
What did you think about the man that I constantly described to you that I see? Now, Josh said that aligned with how someone he knew looked like.
Correct.
And you've seen. Have you seen the same person I've seen?
I have had a picture like of who he looked like. I haven't seen, but when you described him, because I remember sitting on the mower taking a picture, Justin, somebody's watching me. And when you described it, that's exactly what I had a feeling of what it was or who it was or what he looked like.
Mm-hmm. Because obviously I didn't see anything with the photo, but through photos, I'm able to.
Right.
It's so fucking weird. It's weird. It's almost like it gives you something to go with, and all of a sudden these descriptions of how someone looks like comes to you. It's like a claircognizant thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see shit, but as it's coming to me, then my imagination starts forming how he would look.
Right.
And I tell you what I'm seeing in my mind's eye.
Right.
That's how it works. And that I'm like, I should know what this man looks like based on a photo of your front porch. That's weird.
And I've never seen I'm sorry, Missy. And I've never seen the person as, who we think.
I have questions. Do you want me to ask them?
Yep.
Okay. Renee Gurnley asked, what do you think about medication? Do y'all think that opens up things?
Yes and no. A lot of different medications, depending on the medication, can alter your perception. So yes, it could definitely hinder your ability to see things physically and see things psychically, and some can enhance your ability to see things. And what I left out of my paranormal story was a lot of experimentation with psychedelic drugs. And this happened like around the turn of the 21st century, the 2000s. And that's when I started learning more about my spiritual self. And a lot of shamans and spiritual workers, energy workers, have done that for thousands and thousands of years. And there's a reason. Our brains are conditioned by our surroundings all the time, whether we like it or not. The only way to escape this is to put yourself on an island by yourself and never interact with anybody. I would love to see an experiment with somebody like that, because they would probably experience some strange shit, and they would probably be completely different as far as what they perceive and how they perceive things around them. But with this being said, certain drugs can break you free from your cultural, psychological conditioning. So that's a little vague. It gets complicated after that, Renee.
Derek asked, Justin could just be experiencing the same issue we had here with the PK stuff.
It's possible. It doesn't sound like it though. She's not really being disturbed like you guys were. She's just picking up on entities that's there, and it's almost like they're like, hey, I'm here, will you please acknowledge me? Or the energy's like, hey, I'm here, will you acknowledge us or do something with?
And also remember we were talking about one of the rooms in the house that my daughter and myself has. Well, I'm in it right now, but just when you walk down, you just feel something coming from this. And so, Justin, me and you were talking, and you were picking up on a few other things that collide with what Josh was saying. I don't know if you remember that either.
They collide?
Oh, no, I meant they
coincide.
Yes, not collide. Like the pipe and woodworking, that kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely an energy that's around Josh. My mother was actually picking up on. He was here Friday when she was here. She kept on hearing someone sing some phrases that we would say. Like if we were sitting there saying, hey, why don't you take a seat in this chair? She would, oh my gosh.
Sorry.
She would hear someone say, someone saying, why don't you take a seat in that chair? Making a jingle out of things randomly. And it was cracking my mom up. So
Donna's I wonder, sitting over there laughing and they're having this conversation like, what in the hell is wrong with you?
I'm wondering if what she's picking up on was the same thing that, we're picking up on at the house in West Virginia.
I can't wait for you to come July. Oh, no, well, actually,
it's July.
Stop it, Justin.
So in 3 weeks, I'll be there.
I know. I'm excited to see what you feel and what you experience.
Yeah.
You're going to maybe just look at Emma and I'll be like, you guys are full of shit.
No,
but Emma's actually the first one that picked up things through the house.
Right. Yep. I remember. So, kids are less conditioned than adults are. So the chances are they're going to be more in tune with alternate senses, we'll just call them, and not so, they won't regress them as much.
Michelle joined YouTube as well. I'm late on that, but
yeah, I did say hi to her, and I'm glad that she was able to join us.
Yeah, Robert Beach jumped on, and Renee Gurnley jumped on too.
So I'm surprised. Thanks for joining us. I'm surprised that a lot of people aren't saying. Of course, you can't type your paranormal story in the comments, but I was kind of hoping that someone would be like, that wasn't, that was different from my story, or this is what happened to me, kind of in a short description. I was kind of waiting to see that, but never did. But if you want to share your paranormal story with me somehow, I would love to hear about it. We would toss around some ideas on how we could do that, either through email, messenger, or something. But I think there would be takeaways and things you can learn. And at any rate, there would be some interesting things to take away from hearing about somebody else's story.
The orbologist said he just saw a little orb behind your head, Justin.
Okay, well, I didn't see it when I'm looking at my screen right now, so we'll have to look back. At it. The paranormal reporter says they're hanging out for a Deadlight sticker.
I gotta get Joe a Deadlight sticker.
Paranormal reporter said, I got stories.
I'm sure he does. Now, Derek's about to kill. The dog's barking because of fireworks.
Yes.
I wondered what was going on. I didn't know.
So she will be barking for the next 3 days.
Silas has started 2 days ago with fireworks at night.
Yeah.
William Bennett says in 200 character segments would be annoying.
Yeah. It would. Yeah. YouTube does that. It would be annoying, but like I said, if you ever, as long as you don't bother me every freaking day by all means, email me your story, and I will interact. I'll give you feedback on it if you want me to, or if you just want me to hear about it. I will be receptive to that, guys, because only through our stories and how we convey them can we learn from each other, and kind of cross-check with each other, compare notes, if you will, about what's going on here, because no one knows everything there is to know about this stuff, and we probably will never know, but that shouldn't stop us from wondering and asking questions and trying to investigate some things, experiment around and see if there is any information or data we can get, when dealing with these things. So I don't know. I think this should be a good time to wrap things up. I wish there was just a lot of time to tell you about all my stories, but I want to go ahead and wrap it up, girls. There's just so many things to say. I mean, I've experienced so much since I've been doing the paranormal research that I tried to share with you guys through our videos and documentaries and these shows. The paranormal is real. I can't be sure what it is. It does seem like some of it's witchcraft, some of it's deceased people, some of it's weird, funky energy that just does things. But I can't be sure. And until we are sure, we can't claim to have evidence of the afterlife or evidence of ghosts and anything like that. We can just try our best to document using the best equipment and methodologies we can muster. So if I have helped you do anything like that, that's awesome. And I appreciate every one of you guys very much for supporting what I'm doing here and joining me on my paranormal journey, as it were. And without you guys, I just wouldn't be continuing doing this. So I really do appreciate it. If you want to check out, if you haven't already, check out these links. They're in the video description. InterfaceDeath.net is our website and hub of everything we do. If you would subscribe to the newsletter, I don't spam your inbox. We definitely give you updates, and there's in-depth information on everything that we do as far as equipment, methodologies. All of our videos are on there, everything. And you can even contact me through the webpage. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check me out on my blog page on Facebook at Justin Brown Paranormal Research, or at Interface Death on Facebook. Interface Death is on Twitter and Instagram. And if you're watching on the show on Facebook, you can go over to YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, and watch videos and live streams there as well. Patreon.com/support Interface Death is a way you can support us financially, whether it be just a little bit or a significant amount. Okay, we're gearing up to do a commercial film. Everything that we can get from our community will help us put the best video production content out there as possible, and you will have your stamp on it. People like Clay Borman, Katie Turner, RJ Murphy, Scotty Fox, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Paranormal Reporter, Joe Vitale, Heather Elliott, Cherry Capital, Shadow Seekers, The Ghost Guild, Kelly McConkey, Tony Felosi, and General 7. They all have a stamp and something to contribute to what we're doing. And without them, we just couldn't do it. This is a community effort. Okay, I can sit here in front of the computer and the cameras and do this, but without their support, it just wouldn't be here consistently and getting better each year. So thank you very much to our Patreons. Please consider checking out the page. You get rewards for everything you contribute. You get access to exclusive content, so on and so forth. So we'll leave it there. Again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. If you want to even vote on the shows, our Patreons do vote on the topics of the shows. And even I think at $1 a month, you can join the Facebook group where we do put up the polls for that. So check it out, guys. If you are new to the show and want to see some video promotions about our videos and about Deadlight and stuff, stick around to see that. I'm going to leave it there. I love you guys. You're in my heart. Check us out next week at Paranormal Soapbox, and we'll see you next time. Do you have that drive? that morbid curiosity to explore the darkness. Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
Dead light. For those who aren't afraid to see what lurks in the night.
Cell, I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
In every old building, a story lays dormant, yearning to be told. This is our calling.
I don't know why in this room I'm hearing the train.
I just heard something.
It feels like it's train. Non-stop. I don't know why.